It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relevant and relatable conversations with contractors. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Hey, everybody.
We are coming to you episode 56 today, live from studio. Our guest today is Kevin Soohoo, head of growth and leader of sales and marketing over at Dado. We actually have a vendor on with us today, somebody to help our listeners out a little bit, hopefully. So thanks for joining us, Kevin. We appreciate you coming on and taking the time with us.
Yeah, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, man. So give us a little history, kind of how you got started in the insurance world, or insurance. I said insurance.
You did say insurance.
Freudian slip. How you got started in the construction world and that journey to where you are now.
Yeah, happy to. So, it's been about a 15-year journey so far, commercial construction entirely. But it all started with an MEP contractor up here in the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California. But my journey started really with them. We did some interesting things early on. 2012, looked at technology. How can technology play a bigger role in like field operations? This is when iPads were coming out. So did a pretty good run of about 11 years at the subcontractor level, really driving the innovation story for them. So that's the beginnings of where I've been. So I've been in, the customer shoes, and in the last 3 years, I've been now with two different construction tech startups, Rumbix and now Dado.
So what, if I could let's explore that 2012 timeframe a little bit. What was it specifically that kind of led you to wanting to push where you were at a little bit more technology? Just because, we're in 2020 now, and I still feel like that mindset is hard for a lot of contractors to get over, especially at the subcontractor level, right? I feel like a lot of the bigger general contractors have come a long way in that space, but especially at the subcontractor level. So kind of speak to the thought process that went behind, kind of going that way.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate to join a company that had a very progressive, we're in Silicon Valley, if you will. A lot of the construction projects that were being done at the time were for those Silicon Valley companies.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you name your, companies to start with a G, right? Can't say them always, but the fruit ones, all those ones. But the sort of notion like, hey, we got to come to play. And that we need to stand out because of our customer base, the types of projects we were doing really drove a lot of that initially, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to show up to a job site. I'm going to show up to a job interview. We're trying to pitch for a project. And if our guys aren't coming in with some manner of technology and we're showing up with paper and pencil, it doesn't put us in the best light. So,
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like where we were operating, Silicon Valley. But the executive team at that was great. They're like, we need to bring on somebody that can help drive this whole technology and innovation forward. And that's where I came in. And really from there, just iPads were a brand new thing. What do we do with that? There's quite a lot that had happened in the 11 years where we checked out, tried, piloted, if you will, use your adjective here, of a lot of different solutions that were just coming to market around that time.
So were you more focused on kind of safety and training from the tech level, or was it more, bidding and the budgeting aspect of it and the timeline stuff?
There's a little bit of everything. I think a little bit, but if I were to kind of give a little bit where more the focus, it was on the field operations. Very fortunate to be able to sit with our ops folks, to sit in, the WIP review meetings for projects, hear firsthand when projects don't go right, hear about like when we blow a budget, the mistakes or the challenges. And so being able to absorb all that really gave me that whole complete picture of like what's going on, how do we actually get to the root of some of these problems. And at the end of the day, it was like, okay, in the field where, as most subs are, the risk is in the labor. And so, what can we do with that? We had a lot of guys in the field. It was like 300, 350 at one point. So, a lot of risk running around out there. we can get one of them, to get a little bit more efficient, it's a huge win.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, were you developing software at that time, or were you just using systems electronically and kind of piecing those things together?
Yeah, it was an interesting time. There was not a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there was nothing, right? I mean, Procore,
right.
That kind of stuff, none of that stuff existed.
I think the Procore was a little bit out there. It wasn't quite what you know them today.
Right,
so
right.
Yeah, a lot of, to your question, it was like adapting stuff that was already in the market and trying to jam it in, if you will, into a construction workflow.
Force it to work, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a lot of it. And, fortunately, there was a little company called PlanGrid that came along right around that 2012 timeframe. Scrappy little company at the time, and that was a huge catalyst. We got on board with them very early on, but it took off, and that was one win of a few that really got traction going that we needed.
Yeah. And what kind of speak to maybe the results you guys were seeing kind of going to that direction? What kind of things were you guys accomplishing by doing that at that time?
Yeah, the easiest, I think the best example that I use today still is the communication. Right. And so communication might be a really hard thing to measure. But
quantify.
The way we found in terms of measurement is cell phone minute usage. So one of the things that I'd have to do every month is look at, our tech spend, and that included at the time cell phones. And every month, your top 10, top 20 minute users, this is before unlimited minute plans, right? But every month to month, the top 10, top 20 users are the field. And it's like, if you don't understand, what they're doing and why they're doing it, and you just kind of say, well, they're just goofing off because they're calling all the time, that's a flawed. And so as we dug into it, it's like, no, they're calling because they need information. They're calling because something's missing or they want to clarify something. And so as we started to put more and more technology in, you started to see those minutes go down. Now, not completely, but as a measure of some effect, minute usage, from the field was one that we saw as something that we're moving the needle. We're cutting down on calls. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, minute usage, obviously, from a monetary standpoint, isn't a big deal now with unlimited plan. But like you said, if they're not on the phone, they're obviously working and being able to manage and being a little bit more efficient.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure, most subs right now looking at their plans, even if you have unlimited plans, who's your highest minute users, right?
Right.
Bet money it's going to be your field top
so
5.
That's
10.
still kind of a thing that you guys point at and try and.
Yeah. A lot of, as you said earlier, smaller contractors are just getting into this or trying to figure it out. And what is the easy, we'll call ROI, if you will, but is it, can we improve communications? What does that mean? Well, that might mean reducing the time they're on the phone, because if they're on the phone an hour a day, and now we're cutting it down to 45 minutes a day, that's 15 minutes of productivity back in their pocket.
Yeah. So, I mean, were you guys exploring too with scheduling and job bidding and costing and all that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, we had a bunch of everything. I think the 2 or 3 big ones, it's still kind of focused around the field, but it was, some of my story was timekeeping, right? At some point we're like, time cards, as maybe generic as that sounds, is actually crucial for a sub, right? It's the ability, not necessarily get people paid. That's important for sure. But it's like, well, how much are we burning? How fast are we burning? What's actually getting thrown in or installed? And using sort of this, productivity measurements, or we call performance factors back in the day. And so a lot of the focus was, how do we measure that better? How do we get better on making sure we don't run over our budget? We have budgets, right? You have budgets for demolition, you have budgets for install, we have budgets for everything and every little activity. And so at some point you got to say, look, where are we losing? And so that's really it. Is like a lot of things affect that. So better timekeeping, more accurate timekeeping, faster timekeeping was one. It was, and like examples, as we all know, PlanGrid, it was getting those drawings into their hands. They don't need to drive in to get those blueprints anymore. Yeah. So it was a lot. I think, if we call a layered approach, that there was not one that did it all, but it was like, hey, we're going to build, what we call a tech stack, and it still happens today. What are some of the pieces we need? Because not one thing should serve everything. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like if there's one product that did everything, it probably wouldn't do everything very well. You know what I mean?
That's a big problem, I think, in the industry. And we can touch on that a little bit later on. But we try to avoid that. Try to be agile. That's kind of the thing, right? It's like, if you want to be agile for each of your different parts of your organization, field, estimating, project management, ops, warehouse, prefab, there's something that's specific for them, like a toolbox, right? You don't use the drill for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a great analogy. What kind of feedback and response were you guys getting from guys out in the field when you were trying to push this stuff? Because I imagine at that time there might have been a little bit of pushback.
Oh yeah. It's like, hey, an iPad, we got to armor this thing up because it's going to be a frisbee and get ran over. I think, to our pleasant surprise, though, that wasn't truly the case. But yeah, tech and the field don't always go hand in hand, especially in 2012. What a big part of my job was, beyond the tech, was the engagement as a person, right? If I'm somebody that's in the field and I'm already on a Sunday night trying to get ready for the week, or I'm not getting home at 3:00 or 2:30 on a Friday because I'm still working, right? Those are what we started to really look at, is how do we engage our folks in the field? It's not for tech's sake. It is like, how can I help you do your job better, faster, smarter, all those cliches. But it's like, there's a lot of they're all proud work, out there in the field, right? It's a craft.
Yeah,
and so, helping them somehow streamline or, reduce the friction. That's what it came down to, is if I can have a conversation with someone in the field, like, okay, where's your challenges? Where's your frustration? Let's try to solve that, and not just say, gravitate toward, it's all about tech. In some cases, it was about maybe just process and business process or workflow, right? Like, hey, how do we cut out some of these extra steps? So it may not always have been tech, but at the end of the day, we're like, how do I get somebody and have their job become a little bit easier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting them on board by kind of showing the benefits of what the tech can do, rather than just saying, hey, we need to go to all this tech.
Yeah. So that was a big motivator, but you had to be very conscious, right? So the things that we were trying to shoehorn in weren't built for construction. So we do a lot of, working with some of these vendors early on to customize, tweak, if you will. But yeah, there's always a very conscious effort to be like, hey, once the field has a bad experience, it's going to stick with them. And so the next thing that comes along is going to be that much harder. So very conscious about, fails in the field, because it just becomes infinitely harder the next time you come around with something cool.
And not only that, but I mean, you think about an iPad in 2012 and you hand that to, somebody in the field who may or may not have had an iPhone, but likely not at that time, just because there weren't a lot of them. An iPad is like, a foreign object to them. And not the case now, right? Almost everybody's got some sort of smartphone. So the learning curve isn't as steep there, but I have to imagine that was probably a big struggle too, is just the usability.
I think there was a little bit of that whole, we've got laptops even in 2012, right?
Yeah.
And the field,
those big military ones that were like briefcases, right?
They are big. And typically the field gets the hand-me-downs.
Right.
And so you've had this now condition, especially at least for us, was like, okay, we've got laptops out in the field. They are not the newest laptops. They are a hand-me-down that might be 3 or 4 years old. It's been beat down. It's slow, right? So now I've got someone in the field who wants to pull up an email. They're waiting 10 minutes to boot this thing up. Where as an iPad, as you all know, you just click a button and you're going. Yeah. So there was a big like, okay, well, this at least saves me 10 minutes every time I want to check my email. So there was that we had to go off of. But it's engagement. At the end of the day, it's like, hey, you got time. You don't have infinite time.
Right. No, for sure. And
that's the push. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially for somebody working at a labor job, I mean, where their job is really never done. They just kind of work till the clock is done. You know what I mean? It's getting them to that point where they can get that done earlier and sooner and get home is probably pretty helpful.
Yeah. And, it's the budget on the job, right? Every minute counts, and every minute they're not actually installing, it's just hurting. And, we had project managers that were trained to, put buffer in for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
So did your position kind of run its course with that first company, or were you kind of, what do I say, cherry picked to kind of do what you're doing now with these startups?
A little bit of both. So as that time went on, and as we had, piloted a number of different solutions, one that really stood out at that time was a company called Runbix, digital timekeeping, really great, productivity analytics. The idea that we'll know in the field what we're burning right away. We're not waiting a week in arrears because payroll is processing everything. And then, so it's just the ability for a contractor or subcontractor to know, hey, we're about to burn budget. We're about to breach our budget. And knowing that day or the next day is a lot better than knowing the next week.
Yeah, for sure.
We were an early pilot of those. Really big fan of what they are doing. They're still doing. And that's the right opportunity, the right timing came up and said, hey, let's, come aboard to Rumbix. Zach and Drew, the co-founders, love those guys, but they gave me an awesome opportunity to join that team early on. Did a good run with them for about a year and a half, helped build up some of their customer base, helped shape a little bit of that, strategy around how do we get into more subs, things of that nature. So that was my first jump out of the contractor world, if you will, and into the vendor side. And so, I did a good run with them and learned a lot from a sales and marketing element, from a software company element. But the messaging was very true about trying to, at the end of the day, help that field person be better at managing their time or understanding where their time and budget is being impacted. So that was my first jump. Yeah.
So, and maybe we probably should have touched on this a little bit sooner, but kind of what was your background? I mean, any school background or anything? What was your focus coming out of school?
Sure. Yeah, IT. So
okay, that's where I kind of wanted to. I didn't know if you kind of fell into that because you just got good at it with that first company, or if that was actually.
So previous to construction, I was in global manufacturing, and so I lived through a 10-year period in manufacturing where it was largely U.S. based, at least for what we were building manufacturing wise. And then toward the end of that run, everything was going to Mexico and China. But in that run of global manufacturing, there was still a lot of how do we make technology make us better? So the same theme, at least of, enabling better business, right? Through technology. And, some of the things in construction today carry over Six Sigma and Lean. And so I saw all of that from a global manufacturing perspective. So it's really interesting to see these concepts now really taking hold in the construction space, because like I said, I've seen them from the manufacturing side and it's great. It really is great.
Yeah. And obviously construction and manufacturing kind of go hand in hand from a labor and management standpoint, as far as, running parallels. Did you come out of school with that IC background looking to get into that blue collar work, or that blue collar side from a tech side, because it is like kind of limited, I guess, or to a degree. I mean, I think you have a good point there, observation here, which is for me, my father was a Hewlett Packard guy for 20 plus years, so I've always seen tech when I was growing up, but I wasn't really interested when I was going to college. I wasn't really interested in going into a tech company. I had the tech background and I studied that, but I was really more interested in okay, how do I make a difference in some of these other, again, manufacturing and ultimately construction. And so that's what led me to where I am today. No, and I think that's smart because, I mean, coming out of school, especially doing that, there's a billion, especially that time, right? There was a billion tech companies you could have gone to that are all, I don't want to dumb them down, but a dime a dozen, right? Like they're all kind of the same and they all kind of do the same kind of thing. Yeah. That kind of, so going to seeing that opportunity to kind of make a big change in an industry or two that maybe is lacking, I think is that's probably what I would have done too. It seems a lot more fun.
It's like leaving your thumbprint behind.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really it. Like even though I'm not there, the effects, the things we accomplished still live on today. So yes, very proud of.
No, that's cool, man. Very cool. So you left the one startup and now and Dado's the second startup you've been with now. Yeah. So doing some interesting things. Both Rumbix and Dado are Series A companies. So for folks that are not super familiar with sort of the software world, Series A is, earlier stage, 1 to 5 years, 1 to 7 years, but still earlier on in that journey. In both cases, Series A company. So it's really interesting, understanding, the go-to market. What's the best kind of messaging that resonates with the sub trades, the trade workers, skilled trades, and all those. But Dado is one that obviously I'm with now, and similar themes around enabling the field and trying to get, efficiencies and productivity into the field, but it's a different approach. It's not so much about timekeeping. It's more about information. And so if you think about like Google, that's really what we've got is a Google for your construction project search, right? It's like, okay,
I had a question again, going back to cell phone minutes, right? Someone's going to call to the office because they need a drawing or they need an RFI. Now with what we've got, if we've been fed all those documents up front, just like Google, you would ask us our data and we would return results like instantly. So now you're saying, okay, you want to see about cell phone minutes going down? That will probably go down really fast with kind of what we got going on. So yeah, it's the ability for someone in the field to ask a question. And we also do natural language. So you think about your Siris or Alexas. So on their mobile device.
So everything
now,
is voice activated? Wow.
Yeah, on the mobile device. So, and it understands construction. So if you say, show me 5th floor wiring diagram, you'll get a drawing within like half a second. If you want to ask like, show me lower level, we'll know lower level can also mean basement. So we've got all the synonyms, or someone in the field might be asking for one thing, but it's on the drawing, it's called something else. So we've got a whole list of synonyms that are also processing. So now they're still asking exactly the same question, except they're not calling somebody anymore. They're asking our system first.
And so are you guys actually taking all that information and indexing it for the client, or is that something that they do?
Yeah, no, there is a bit of that. So how we sort of position is like, look, we have built our system to be non-invasive, meaning if I'm asking a project engineer, project manager, what have you, to do 5 more steps to feed our system, they're never going to use it.
Right.
So we built our system, really try to be conscious on trying to be very, very non-invasive, meaning you just really need to point us toward where you got your stuff today. Box, Dropbox, what have you, BIM 360. You've got stuff all over. And that's true for every contractor.
Right.
We'll comb through all of it. We'll combine them all so that now when you do search, you're going to search across all those different systems and then down through all those different folders. So one of our customers really summed it up for us: search vertically and horizontally, right? Through different systems and through different folders. Because right now, if you think about somebody doing that, they're going to click 100 times a day going through a bunch of folders.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, I feel like, I from a non-tech guy, right? I'm super non-tech. I mean, I have trouble setting up the podcasting equipment that we have, but I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around how you even came up with something like that, or are able to accomplish something like that.
Yeah, the origin story is really interesting, and I can dive into that really quickly. But one of the things, so I'm sure y'all heard of Stanley Black Decker.
Mm-hmm.
You might know them as DeWalt Tools, one of their brands. But a few years ago, what had happened was the investors said, "Hey, Stanley Black Decker? What are you going to do about digital innovation software?" And so, really, what has become of that challenge was the whole: we need to get into software. We need to do sort of this startup situation. And so, we've been very fortunate to have been funded by Stanley Black Decker solely. So we've got a really strong and strategic backer for us. And so they wanted to do more digital. They spun up this kind of tiger team, if you will, like, let's do some research. Let's go into the market. Let's actually not have any preconceived notions, but let's do the due diligence. And so the story there was like 300, 400 people interviewed from industry: architects, engineers, GCs, owners, anyone you could think of. There was a very deep, if you will, research process that said, hey, what are the problems in the industry? And through those several hundreds of interviews, it was information. I do not know where all my stuff is.
Yeah.
I do not know, where that needle in a haystack is. And I play that game every day now. So we really did a lot of research, again, into the market, where Stanley Black Decker recognized the need. And now we are a product of that. And the fact is, again, information is everywhere today. And people struggle with managing it, with finding it, with sharing it. And perhaps the worst case of all, for especially some of the folks you had on subcontractors, is missing something. Right?
Yeah,
we have
for sure.
files everywhere now. And the one file that might change the course of how you build is not known, or is missed or overlooked, is that whole, rework word. And everyone knows it's there. And the problem is that we kind of accept it as an industry that it's there, but can we actually, we got real customer examples of like, oh, we did not know this one piece of document existed, this one RFI, and we found it before it went to build. And because we were able to find it early on, we didn't have rework. It's a simple story as that. It really is. It's not an abstract idea. It's like, let's just make sure the information you have is available, searchable. That's really it.
Yeah.
So are you going as
That's
deep
amazing.
as into like the servers of your customers as well, like looking through actual hard files on
We
CPUs?
can.
Wow.
We can. So, you just point us to
Yeah.
where your stuff is at. We will, need to take a copy of it so we can index it and scrape it and analyze it. But yeah, everything you have today, subcontract, even GCs, but contract, it stays there. We don't take or move any of it out.
Right.
You just need to give us access to it in some way, whether it's sitting on your server or again, any cloud storage. We try to make it, again, very non-invasive, very simple to operate and
That's
feed,
crazy.
is what we call it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's really cool.
I mean, just like I
Yeah.
said, from a non-tech guy, trying to wrap my head around the fact that you can just go through all that and find it that quickly and index it is insane.
The other challenge that came out of the research was, especially subcontractors, they're managing 5-6 different systems. They got their own.
Yeah.
They got the GCs. They might have the architects, engineers. They might have a subcontractor of their own. So now you've got this notion of, I got multiple data silos, if you will, that have everything spread out. So can Dado be that bridge, if you will, to combine all those things so that when you do that one search, I'm now able to search across everything. And that's exactly what we're doing right now.
So if I'm a subcontractor, I'm using you and you've got access to all these, like you said, different data silos. I bring on I start on a new job with maybe a GC that I've never worked for before. I just call you guys up, or probably not a call, right? It's probably an email at this point. Let's be honest. So shoot you an email and let you know, hey, this is new GC I'm working for. Here's a new data set I need you to index, and you guys just.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fast. How
long does it take to index like a data set?
Pretty quick. I mean, we've had examples of like 5,000 page spec books getting broken down within a few minutes. So one of the cool things is we'll automatically break that spec book down, 5,000 pages broken down by spec division within, a few minutes, maybe 10, 20 minutes if it's a heavier file. But yeah, we break that stuff down pretty quick. It's pretty smooth.
What I'm saying is I don't have to, as a subcontractor, I don't have to wait a few days or a week for that to get indexed. It's from a construction timeline, it's pretty immediate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast. Yeah.
Wow.
I would say we try to go real time, no more than 4 hours. What we say, but yeah, it's very fast. Once we know and where that folder of information is, you point us to that. It's ready to go and be searched minutes at most.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I just trying to think of all the different like ways it could help. I mean, it helps obviously on the side. I'm thinking back to what you were talking about in 2012 with the cell phone minutes, but you don't have a guy, the contractor's not calling the GC and all these different people trying to find a specific set of plans. They're able to search real time via Siri, hey Siri, where's or whatever, for Dado. Where I said, hey Siri, and my Siri thing. But you're able to find these immediately. Yeah.
Wow. And you don't have to call a bunch of people to figure it out. You got it right in your...
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What happens if they call? There's probably 5 calls, realistically, right?
Yeah.
It's 5 calls.
Hey, no, you need to call John. He's got it. You call John. No, Cindy's got it. You're like, oh gosh.
Yeah. So if it's really not found in our system, then I think they have a case for, really firing off an RFI, right? And that's the other part of it. It's like, can we reduce some of this administrative burden sometimes?
Right.
Of, hey, it was there in the set. You just didn't find it because it was in the wrong folder. How many times has that happened?
Right.
Right. Versus, okay, we knew it's not there because that search tool called Dado did not find it. Right. Yeah. It's that comprehensive.
Right.
But yeah, I think the bigger picture is finding something that wasn't known, making sure something wasn't overlooked. Because human nature is like, I'm a busy person. I'm going to click through a bunch of folders, get the first document that I find, and I'm going to run with it. But that document could have a superseded document. That document could have something else related to it. And if you didn't know the context of that document, you're going to build wrong. And again, we go back to that whole problem with rework. And whether you're a small contractor or a large contractor, the problem is the same.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost more cost deficient to a smaller contractor, that 5 or 10 minutes or however long it takes. You're almost burning more time than a larger contractor that maybe have a little bit more overhead.
It weighs more. More. And then that risk of that rework, that one thing that they missed, and now they're, even if it's $10,000 rework bill, that's a big deal for a smaller contractor.
So this might be getting a little bit too minutia, but I'm kind of curious. If, let's say I'm a electrical contractor, and like you said, I can say, show me, second floor wiring plan. If I've got 3 different job sites that I'm doing for the same GC or whatever. I don't know, whatever. I mean, is it geotagging and knowing that you're on this job site and you need the plans for this one versus the second floor wiring from a different site, or how does that?
That's that. Yeah, not to give too much away. I think our product people would probably kill me, but that would be something we are building toward. Right now, it's by project.
Okay, so you have to say second floor electrical for this project or whatever?
No, in the app, you would already be in the project.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, that makes sense.
If you think about sort of the hierarchy, it's by project, and you
Right.
could have a list of roster of people per project. So they don't see
Cool.
every single project, but you're in the project once you initiate, and then you kick off a search.
Well, if nobody thought about that in the development team, I'll take some royalties on the
Call it the mic feature. What though, still maybe extend to your idea a little bit further is, you get the drawing. You're also going to get the related specification. You may also get any submittals that are related because we've already
or change orders or anything like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really one of the many differences in sort of the power of search is that you might get the one thing you want, but you're going to get 5 other documents that are very contextually related. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps create confidence in like, okay, what I'm about to put in to this bathroom build or this, campus build makes sense because now I've got all 5 pieces.
Yeah, here's the original, here's the change, here's the confirmation of the change. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what happens in a lot of cases is like you get conflicting documents, but because they're in different folders, nobody's taking the time to make sure they get them all collected.
Right.
And so for a search like what we're doing, you're going to get all of them in that first set of results, the first page of results.
So, and this might be, again, this is over my head from a tech standpoint, but I know a lot of tech companies go through like a beta testing. And so Series A, is that past the beta? Are you guys actually in sales mode now and working with?
Yes. Yeah. So it's that story, kind of that whole research phase. 2019, we were, in stealth mode. So we spent most of 2019 in stealth mode where we had a good couple handfuls of really great contractors on with us in beta. So that's the story there. It was last year we were in beta. And really this year, January 2020 is when we officially went to market. And so it's been a good
Perfect
run.
timing in the middle of a pandemic.
Although pandemic with construction booming though. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, for us, we had, to be honest, not a lot of problems. I think it's a validation, if you will, of solving real problems.
Yeah.
The problem still exists. Job sites were still running. The pain is still there. And in some cases, it's even worse because now I'm really compressed. But the fact is that, hey, if we're able to prove, and as any software company should strive to do, is prove they're solving real pain, right? There's a lot of shiny object syndrome, if you will, that happen in the market, and so they're in here as well as we are. But for us, and at least looking at last quarter, really great to see that, we were able to get customers on still through all that. And again, solving real problems.
Well, yeah. And I have to imagine you like you said, solving that real problem. I mean, I'm sure that there were issues with, needing something and so-and-so's office is closed down because they don't have people there because, you know what I mean? A lot of those things. Yeah. Yeah. You guys were probably.
The other interesting thing you kind of touched on it was what else does good construction search give you? Safety information was one that came out a lot. It was like, okay, we've got a lot of C-19 or COVID-19 related protocol now. How do we make sure that's indexed and searchable by our crews in the field? Because it's changing, or it changes a lot. And so now it's like, okay, can we put safety stuff in Dado? And yes, we have. In fact, we've been actually partnered with NECA and MCA, 2 major trade groups at the national level to help organize a lot of that information for them. So it's been interesting to work with them as true partners in making sure important information like that is, searchable,
accessible. Yeah. Are you guys, so you're taking data sets from your customer, but so it sounds like you guys have your own kind of library or set of
data.
Data and some other safety and some other, that's almost, is that stuff that's accessible by everybody when they come on with you?
There's 2 ways we've been skinning that, so MCAs and the NECAs, that is their curated information.
Okay.
They're depositing in our system.
Right.
If we have a few customers that they have their own safety programs, and so they're putting that then into data. So we don't have any, common data, if you will, at this point. It's all been driven by the customer, right? Whether, again, it's project docs or safety information. Meeting minutes has been one we've been seeing come in. Service. So all those service contractors and saying, where's all my O&Ms? And I don't want to dig through a box folder now because I don't know what folder it's in. Pull up the O&M for that cafeteria, oven.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
So, good search can apply to a lot of different areas, and we're starting to see that right now.
Yeah. I just wonder if there might be an opportunity for you guys to kind of develop or license somebody else's safety information or safety and training, maybe mainly from a training aspect, right? Like you guys index a whole training series that these guys could use, like on a weekly basis where they sit around a tailgate and talk for 20 minutes on a certain topic. And that's something that kind of comes with your service is access to that kind of stuff. Because they're all using that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Some folks have said, hey, what about building codes? That's been tossed around. No plans right now, but that was one where it's like, well, that's common information typically.
Yeah, it's almost like the possibilities are almost endless. But it almost becomes overwhelming, right? Which one do you focus on? Yeah.
Right. To kind of what your earlier question, Series A is like, this is the time to somewhat explore. Like, where does this thing stretch into?
Right.
Is this purely for subs? The GCs want this thing? Do owners want this thing? BDC? So that's where we really are. A lot of the fun right now is saying, where does this take us at the Series A level? Because, we don't quite know, but we do get a lot of interest from a lot of different folks.
Yeah, no, it's almost like what you're doing is great, but you can almost go down a rabbit hole of, man, it could do this and it could do that and it could do that. And it's, I have to imagine.
Y'all think so, people?
Yeah, it could just almost become a little overwhelming for sure.
Where we try to really stay focused right now is search. It's information, right? It's like, you've got information, we're going to help you find it. A lot of people start to say, well, do you do forms and workflows? And that's squarely project management stuff. So we're not trying to be another project management platform. We figure there's plenty of great names in that space already. It's then just the coexistence now of like, okay, got a great PM platform, but you've got all this data now and people are not finding it. So what is a good solution for that? Well, I think we have something there.
Is there a thought of maybe kind of, I go back to something like Salesforce that we use, and I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with them, but they kind of merge with other different platforms out there so that data can kind of migrate both ways. Is there any talk of that? Like, maybe for your back office system, finding certain, payroll documents or admin documents or something along those lines?
Yeah, we've had some of our customers start to ask like, hey, you should connect to this other system because I need this stuff. Right. So one example is like, where's my materials? Well, there's not a specific document necessarily that says when and where your material's coming, but there's probably a purchase order cut from your accounting system that might lead to an answer. And so somebody said, hey, you should talk to our accounting system, or you should talk to name your other project management system. So part of the Series A challenge, if you will, is understanding those puzzle pieces, understanding what makes a good partner in these cases for us. That's mutual, and that's what we're also exploring right now. It's like, what of this ecosystem that we're operating in, how do we enhance what we're doing by plugging in, if you will, to these different systems? Because a lot of it is in the box and drop boxes of the world, but there's still also a lot more out there that if we were able to, plug into, it enhances that value.
Very cool, man. So how many contractors you guys have on with you right now operating?
We are approaching, we're approaching the 50 range. So we've been very fortunate that everyone that we had in our stealth mode came along with us. So that was good.
That's good.
That's actually a good thing.
No one dropped out. Out. But through this year, like I said, Q2 has been great for us. And we've been getting customers on the boat at a very good rate. And that, again, large and small, to also add to that, we've been really great getting a 5-man shop and a 400-man shop on. So great spread in terms of customer size and also state. So that's a big deal. It's like, as a new company,
kind of proving it everywhere, across all lines.
Right. We don't want to have a West Coast bias, as a lot of people might tend to look at West Coast companies like ours, but we're in, I just counted actually the other day, we're in like 15, 16 different states now.
Very cool.
With contractors. So we've got great spread across all the states, a great mix of different sub trades, a few GCs in there now, but we got the mechanicals, the electricals, the drywalls, and more to come on that. I'm very excited that, again, size doesn't matter your discipline. You got a problem because you got folders and they probably suck. Or they're costing you. They're costing you in some way or another. They are costing you.
A money suck.
Yeah.
Something sucks.
So true. So true. From a pricing standpoint, are they paying based on the size of the information or the size of the company? How do you guys price it? Structure.
We try to look at your user count. So again, another kind of fun time, at least with Series A stage that we're in, is exploring and trying out these different
trying them all out.
Models, licensing models. So we tend to gravitate toward your user count. So if you're, interacting with our system, a PM, superintendent, anyone like that, we look at a user count and we say, look, you can start with a very low count. Subs obviously cash flow right now sensitive. So selling in at a reasonably low rate, 5 users, we can get you in the door, get it on a project, prove it out, and then you add on from there. That's really the mode, we go and try to, again, cash flow wise, right now for us, have very flexible payment terms. So if a contractor wants to get it on a project, try it out, and not have to pay for it for a few months, we're open to that. There's a couple different ways, but under 5K easily, 5K range around there, down a little bit lower for smaller user counts. We can get in the door and let you try it out.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, before we get to kind of you getting to tell everybody where to go to kind of find this or kind of demo it with you, is there anything, I mean, like I said, tech is not my thing. So if there's any question I missed or something you wanted to highlight, I want to make sure you get an opportunity to kind of do that. I think we covered the bases. Like I said, appreciate the opportunity to come on and just relate. And the industry has been really interesting these last 8 years. Yeah.
Right? We've gone from what is an iPad to like, I need AI.
Scanning it and seeing the wiring behind the wall and all that
3D,
stuff. Yeah.
Virtual everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is great. I'm not knocking that, but a lot of it's focused not on the field. And so that's where my background and where Dado is the helping those guys and the girls in the field, right? Get that information. Stop calling the office 100 times and stop guessing and stop getting carpal tunnel because you're clicking through, a dozen folders every day and you're just burning time. So, for us, I think just carrying forward that legacy of like, it is still, the field is where it happens. And if we can help make sure information is in their hands at the right time, right away, that's a big one.
Well, I think what's fun about it too, and what's cool is, I mean, we get compliments all the time, not to kind of pat ourselves on the back, but just about kind of like digitizing this industry, right? Or kind of making a little bit more tech into the industry, right? By doing a podcast or something like that. But what's cool about what you guys are doing, in my opinion, is that it is built and extremely useful for even a small contractor, like you said, somebody with 4 or 5 guys, because so many of these things, not only are they these different softwares that are out there for scheduling or budgeting or any of those things are built for just bigger contractors, especially from a price standpoint, right? It doesn't make sense when you're that much smaller. Not only from a usability, like, do you really need it when you're that small, but also, from a price standpoint, can you afford it when you're that small? So I think it's cool that there's something out there now that can kind of, a lot of those smaller shops that maybe don't have anything tech at all can bring something on to kind of get them started, and they can kind of see the efficiencies. And
it solves that universal. I was just gonna say, you guys solve a universal problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the size. It's a functional issue that you guys have addressed, which is huge.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth. I mean, the last few customers we brought on in Q2, that is it. They're like, hey, we're just getting into cloud. We're just starting our journey, and they see us as quick to deploy, right? There's low learning curve. I got a voice. I know how to ask a question. I'm rolling.
Yeah.
Right. We're not talking about a deep, heavy system. We'll spin you up in a day, 2 days max. But so a lot of the smaller contractors, as you just pointed out, they're just getting to, maybe it's forced upon them now because of the situation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice that we have customers that are, again, super big, super, mature in terms of tech.
Yeah.
And then we've got the whole opposite end was like, I'm just getting into cloud. Again, though, the problem is the same. If you've got folders, which everyone does, you've got a problem, right? It's a problem that everyone's been conditioned to accept. But we'd like to challenge that. Again, you can keep your folders. That we're not taking that away from you. But when it comes time to say, I need this drawing or I need this RFI, we will get that for you within seconds.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's let you tell the people how to find you guys. All the socials if you got them, and websites, and how to get in touch with you guys if they want a demo.
Yeah, we'll send over the links, but we're all on LinkedIn and Twitter. Our website is www.projectdado.com, DADO. And if you need to, email me direct at kevin@projectdado.com. I give you one quick story about the origin of the name if you're interested.
Yeah, for sure, of course.
So if anyone's in the carpentry or trades, a dado or dado cut is a trench cut, like maybe you've seen you joining two pieces of wood together.
Right. So
there's some really great symbology with us as dado joining your data together. And then with the DADO, data and documents, that's what we handle. So it's really great to be able to tie those things together.
Was that a lot of beers or a lot of brain power that came up with that?
we had to kick it around, but once we landed on that, it stuck. It was like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So we're really great. The name is great, sticks to a lot of people, but just to have that symbology of joining your data and your documents together. So now again, get out of the folders. You still need them, but ask for it instead, and we'll give it.
Right. Very cool, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time, man. It was fun, and hopefully pretty useful for everybody out there that's going to get to listen to this. And
yeah, for sure.
Like you said, we'll keep in touch, and we'll make sure everybody gets all the links to get a hold of you guys, and hopefully we see big things from you guys in the future. Yeah,
I don't know if this might make the cut or not. I'll mention
everything makes the cut.
One of the cool things we've got, and maybe offer to your listeners, is the first, few people that want to reach out and learn a little bit more about us. We've got a branded Lego set, and I'll send you some photos of that. It's pretty cool. You get one set. You can build 3 different construction vehicles out of that thing. But if anyone's listening to your listeners and they want to just hear a little bit more,
because I want the Legos.
I'll send you one. I'll send you 2. I'll send you 2.
All right.
That sounds awesome.
On the table for your podcast. But
for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little swag item. But if anyone wants to hear more about it, let's say the first 5 folks that want to come in, happy to send a free Lego set to anyone that wants to take a call. I'll send you some. Just send me your address, guys, and I'll get you. I'll send you 2 sets, and we'll make sure we see the real thing.
Yeah, cool. We'll make sure we drop that. We'll make sure we make that known as when we drop this for you.
For sure.
I'll send you a picture. You get the visual and everything.
That'd be great. Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
Guys.
Stay in touch.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.